Hello, I'm Keith Plow, host of this channel, The People's Pigeon, a channel that aims to give highly detailed reports on people of interest, global events, and criminal organizations. This video will cover the chaos that has erupted recently in Ecuador, and familiarize you with the issues destabilizing the nation as of early 2024. Ecuador's murder rate is up over 4 times as high today as it was in 2018, and from 2022 to 2023 alone, its murder rate doubled. The country of about 16 million faced over 8,000 murders last year. The murder situation in the country is so dire that in 2023, presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio was murdered while campaigning. And for the remainder of the campaign, the candidates attended rallies and even voted in bulletproof vests. Villavicencio was a prominent anti-cartel journalist in the country and is not the only journalist to have been targeted by Ecuador's gangs for speaking out against them. So far, 9 other Ecuadorian journalists have sought asylum in neighboring countries for fear of being murdered at home in Ecuador since 2018, a direct result of the growing power of gangs in Ecuador. The death of Fernando Villavicencio is likely the work of the largest gang in Ecuador, Los Choneros, led by a man named Jose Adolfo Macias Villamar, known as Fito, who has been in prison since 2011, facing numerous charges, from murder to drug trafficking. Fito had been threatening Villavicencio for his anti-gang and anti-crime rhetoric in Ecuador's snap presidential election in 2023. And while Fito has not been formally connected to the murder, Ecuadorian authorities suspicious of Fito's involvement in the case prompted them to move Fito to the maximum security wing of Penitencia del Litoral in Guayaquil, where he was being held. But he was moved back to minimum security following riots in the prison and prisons across Ecuador, where Los Choneros are in control. Then, this past Sunday, January 7, 2024, Fito escaped from prison, a move authorities discovered when they came for a surprise visit in preparation to move Fito back to maximum security. It seemed he had been tipped off of the move in advance, according to Ecuador. Ecuadorian officials still have not discovered how he escaped, and if they have, they are still claiming to not know for the time being. After Fito's escape, the country's new president, and the youngest president in Ecuador's history at 36 years old, Daniel Noboa, announced a state of emergency, which enacted a 60-day mobilization of the military, 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew, and checkpoints for anyone traveling in or out of Quito or Guayaquil, in an attempt to recapture Fito. Noboa has been elected to a 16-month presidential term following former Ecuadorian President Guillermo Lasso's resignation to avoid embezzlement impeachment proceedings as president in 2023. 2 days after Fito's escape, the situation worsened when on Tuesday, January 9th of 2024, TC television station, a state-run television channel in Guayaquil, Ecuador, was taken over by 13 armed and masked individuals, who attempted to force the staff at the television station to call for an end to President Noboa's curfew and military mobilization at gunpoint and under the threat of alleged explosive devices. Police eventually ended the hostage situation with no casualties, but the country erupted into violence after that, and another prominent gang leader escaped police captivity on Tuesday, Fabricio Colón Pico. Fabricio is the leader of Los Lobos, an Ecuadorian gang affiliated with the Mexican cartel CJNG, or Cartel Jalisco Nuevo Generación, and a rival gang to Los Choneros. Since President Noboa's state of emergency announcement on Monday, January 8th, gangs from around Ecuador have began setting off car bombs throughout the country's largest cities and have accounted for 8 casualties thus far. And between January 8th and January 13th, 158 prison guards and 20 prison administrative staff were taken hostage by gang members in the prisons where they worked, but were later released. Still unaccounted for, however, are 9 police officers, who have been reported as having been taken hostage as well since Monday the 8th. Peru, Ecuador's neighbor, has since declared its border with the country to be under emergency, and has sent soldiers to watch the situation as Ecuador slowly succumbs to narco-terrorism. The situation in Ecuador is dire, and has been for some time now. Prior to this, there have been 14 massacres in the prisons around Ecuador since 2021, with 80 prisoners being killed in one day of fighting alone between rival prison gangs. These riots are the result of smaller gangs attacking Los Choneros or vice versa. Gangs like Los Chone Killers, Los Lobos, or Los Tiguerones that were at one time either affiliated with or a part of Los Choneros began moving against them in 2020. Following the death of Jose Luis Zambrano, also known as Rasquina or JL, who was the leader of Los Choneros from 2008 until his assassination in 2020. Many gang members of Ecuador believe that Fito killed JL in an effort to inherit leadership of Los Choneros from him. This has created a fracture amongst Ecuador's prison gangs and has been the cause of infighting ever since. Another cause of this influx and widespread mayhem in the country is Daniel Noboa's Phoenix Plan, announced shortly after his inauguration on November 23, 2023, which aims to secure Ecuador's airports and seaports from drug smuggling, and outlined a plan to create a new intelligence unit in Ecuador. The Phoenix Plan also intends to open 2 new super maximum security prisons in the country based off Israeli and USA advisory recommendations and guidelines. The new prisons would block cell phone signal, require guards and staff to wear masks to avoid corruption and extortion, and have better armed guards. The Phoenix Plan is also receiving $200 million in USA funding. This is undoubtedly part of the reason for the growing unrest in Ecuador. Since 2011, following the arrest of Los Choneros' leadership and until current day, Los Choneros have been led almost entirely by leaders who were in prison. However, these new proposed changes to the penitentiary system in Ecuador seek to end that practice. Los Choneros aren't unique in this way either. Many gangs in Ecuador operate partially or entirely from behind bars. President Daniel Noboa's proposed Phoenix Plan hopes to rid Ecuador of its violent gang problem, at least in some small part. Now the fight is on, between Ecuador's government and the country's gangs, regarding whether the plan will be allowed to come to fruition or not. A noble first volley has been fired by the young Harvard graduate, who now holds the office of President of Ecuador. But his opponent's responding blows have been significant and vicious in nature. For now, we must wait to see how each side positions themselves, and if Ecuador's government can retake control of its prisons and return its police officers safely to their loved ones. President Noboa's current stance is that he will not negotiate with terrorists. That plan will only work if he can defeat the terrorists. If not, it will certainly be the cause of mayhem in the coming months. The fight is on now, between Ecuador's government and gangs. In one corner, a 16-month term president. In the other, Ecuador's growing and increasingly dangerous myriad of killers. This will either be a miraculous save by the young president, or the year that marks the start of Ecuador's time as a narco-state. Law and disorder will not share the same home. Thank you for watching, and be sure to check back in with this channel as the situation develops further. As always, I sincerely appreciate your viewership. I'm Keith Pla, host of The People's Pigeon, wishing you well. See you soon.